What's up guys, welcome back to another episode of Shoots with Cooks, and today we're going to talk about surf photography with digital and with film. Let's do it. So first off guys, we're going to get this big misconception out of the way that it costs a whole lot of money to be able to shoot cameras underwater. Let's start with film. Now with film, if you want to shoot in the water, it's the cheapest option. My Nikon 5 cost me about 100 Australian dollars. Got it off eBay. Comes with a 35 2.5 lens, even though you never shoot wide open. It's one of the Nikon E series lens. It's really sharp and I absolutely love this camera. I love shooting black and white, mostly tri-X, out in the surf. The camera has Aperture Priority, and you can get these. Mine's really beat up, and I've done a whole review on this camera you can find on my page. But yeah, mine's pretty beat up, but it still works an absolute treat. Usually stop it down f16, f11 out in the surf with 400 speed film or something, and amazing images on film, which I love the most, for $100. Can't go past this. So digital is obviously going to be more expensive than film. Obviously some of the big housing manufacturers out there, you've got Aquatech, you've got Liquid Eye, those guys make really high quality heavy duty housings, except they're going to run you thousands of dollars. And then once you get the dome attachments or the extra port attachments, different lenses, it's a lot of money you end up getting into. But me, I've always wanted to shoot digital in the surf as well, but I just couldn't afford one of those, $2,500 pro housings. So what I've actually got here, this is by a Chinese company called Mekin, and they make some extremely good quality housings for dirt cheap. All right, this setup here is for my Fuji X Pro 2, which I'm filming on now, and I got the actual housing. I opted to go for the dome port on the end of it, so you can get those wicked, split level shots above and below the water. And I got this extra aluminium handle here. The housing is fantastic. I can get to every single function and button I need to when I'm out in the water, and I just got the extra aluminium handle because it's just something sturdy to hold on to when I'm trying to line up my shots. This whole setup here was 550 Australian dollars with free shipping. The closest price I could find with another camera was Aquatech do a base housing, which all that it has is a pistol grip trigger. You've got to set every single setting you need to prior to putting the camera in the housing, and then all you can do once you're out is just take photos. You've got no controls whatsoever, and as cool as that is, that's still 1,200 Australian dollars. So for half the price, or less than half the price, I got a pro camera with a dome, pro camera housing with the dome lens. All the features I can get to here for half the money, and I've been out in some rough surf already with this bad boy, and it is surprisingly well built and it goes hard out in the surf. So the next thing I want to talk about, guys, is the two most important things you need. Forget about your cameras, first thing you need is a good pair of fins. I've had these fins for years. They're just bodyboarding fins, but these things are a must. You're trying to stay above the water. You've got probably two hands on the camera, and you're trying to stay above the water and trying to get through some of the surf, get underneath big waves. You need a pair of fins, otherwise you're just going to struggle to get in position to get the right photo and get in and out of any dodgy situations out in the surf. Second most important thing is a leash. So I've got, this is a bodyboarding leash because all my surfboard leg ropes are just far too long. So this is a bodyboarding leash. I think it was $30. Just that extra bit of peace of mind, so I know that when I'm out with this camera and I take it off and I put it on my Nikon as well, I just know that if I do just get wiped out or I lose my grip or something, I don't have to worry about losing the camera. It's there. Next thing I want to talk about, guys, is lenses. Now, I know some people like to go really wide, they like to use fisheye lenses. I think that's all a matter of preference. For me personally, I started with my Nikon, and this has a 35mm lens on it. My Leica camera, which I shoot pretty much all the time, my go-to lens is a 35mm on that. And on my Fuji as well, I've got a 35mm lens on that right now as well. 35 is my favorite focal length. I find it to be super versatile. You can get close, you can do wide angle, landscape type stuff with it. It's just extremely versatile. And I think that's why it lends itself to be a perfect lens out in the surf. So if I want to get close to someone, I can get a close-up portrait with it. But also, when I'm in position waiting for a surfer to come, to come near me to get that shot, it just is it's just a really good focal length. It gives me enough room to work with. If they get too close, I can still, get them in the frame, but I can also just have that little bit extra reach that you wouldn't have with a fisheye or like a wide angle 20mm or something like that. But in my opinion, the 35mm is perfect for pretty much every type of surf photography. The only time when you're going to want something like a fisheye or wider is if you want those big expansive barrel shots. You want to be inside the barrel when it breaks and you want to capture everything. Then you need a super wide angle. But for just general surfing and underwater stuff, 35mm works great for me. Now, settings on your camera. Now, obviously with film, we obviously don't have as many options. We can't change much when we're out there. I personally always shoot a 400 speed film, either Tri-X at 400 or Kodak Portra 400. Just 400 speed lets me stop the lens down to f11 or f16 and still get, if it's pretty sunny, 500th, anywhere between 250th and 1,000th of a second shutter speed at f11 and f16, depending on how sunny it is. And that lets me freeze motion and get some good shots, and it works pretty well. You could even go faster, 800 speed film or something, and you probably be able to stick around 1,000th of a second if you're trying to get some real fast moving stuff. But 400 speed film, f11, f16 works a treat. Now with the digital camera setup, obviously we've got a bit more function, a bit more control. With my X Pro 2, as you guys probably know, the X Pro 2 is a very manual camera. We adjust aperture, shutter speed, and all that sort of thing on the camera itself. So some things you can't quite get at when you're out in the surf. For instance, the aperture, I have to, if I want to, I can have it on automatic aperture, but I don't like to do that. I usually set the aperture on the front of the lens at 5.6 or f8. And that gives me a pretty good depth of field, make sure everything's in focus and the frame's nice and sharp across the board. ISO, I usually set the camera to, it's got an auto ISO feature, and I find that just works really well in case I want to dive down underneath and shoot a wave from underneath the water, just so I've got enough light in the camera and the shutter speed will still be reasonably fast. I usually set the ISO, the auto ISO, but I limit it at 1600. So it goes anywhere between 200 to 1600 and it'll bounce back and forth and the camera will figure out whichever one it needs. But I'll never go past 1600, and the camera rarely does shoot past 800. But it just helps for me to, I have peace of mind knowing that I'm gonna have a good fast shutter speed. And the last thing, guys, is I use Aperture Priority as well. Just so that it's one less thing for me to worry about out in the surf, because you're pretty busy trying to line up a shot, watch out for waves and all that sort of thing. So just having Aperture Priority just helps me have one less thing to worry about, and with the auto ISO, the camera always picks a really fast shutter speed. So now, you probably guys want to see a few photos, so I'll hit you with some of my favorite ones that I've taken with my Nikonos on film, and then some of the more recent ones I've taken with my digital, with the X Pro 2 in the Meekit housing. So there you go, guys, just a little brief overview of surf photography. It's something I love to do so much, but I think a lot of people, they would like to do it, but they feel like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, I haven't set the camera. There's so many factors that come into play that I think people can get a little bit put off, especially if it's something they want to do. So I hope you enjoyed this little video, guys, and as always, happy shooting, and I'll see you in the next episode. Catch you later.